thank you all so much for tuning in today. I am so excited to dive into this event, which is all about learning the optimization tips and tricks for increasing engagement and growth on both Instagram Reels and TikTok videos. So a core goal of Dreamers and Doers is to amplify you and all of your incredible journeys. And these educational sessions are the perfect opportunity for us all to up-level together. Before we officially begin, I want to share a bit of background on our esteemed expert today, who's also a dear friend of mine, Chelsea Cooper Braun. Chelsea is the founder and CEO of the digital marketing agency CSC Strategic, focused on measurably growing and optimizing brands across both organic and paid social channels. Chelsea is also a fractional CMO for both emerging and established brands and a TA for a very cool digital marketing strategy class at Harvard University. We are so excited and grateful to learn from your expertise today, Chelsea. We know how valuable your time is. We're just grateful to you for investing in the Dreamers and Doers community in this way. And with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nix. Well, don't mind me literally still out of breath over here. My fitness game, but let me just share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Can everyone see this?
That looks great.
Okay, awesome. So, video. This is a hot topic. So I basically went through and attempted to distill a lot of the things I talk about in my class into 30 minutes. So a lot of information. I do consult on this a lot for emerging brands, especially. And I find with even established brands, there's kind of have a vision of what they think they should be doing, commit really hard to it, and then aren't using the data and kind of the support metrics to change and adapt. So Chelsea C. Braun is my website, my personal website for more specific things. So if you have questions, any of the brands I work with, need me to consult on some things for you after, any of that kind of stuff, feel free to go there. Things I want you guys to walk away with, and I have kind of notes over here, so I don't mean to be going back and forth, but it helps me kind of just stay focused on some of these items. So really want us to think about strategy above anything else. So it's really easy with how much noise that's in the space. Threads is popping up. Should we be on Clubhouse? What's happening here? We kind of get all over the place, and we forget to distill ourselves into what is our strategy and what is our core goals for our brands first and foremost. So I want to make sure we think about strategy first. I want you guys to walk away with some facts and optimization tricks. So some things that I'm seeing in the space and or data showing in the space that we can walk away with. And then how to measure and track success and adapt quickly, efficiently, and budget consciously with that in mind. So I'm just do this. Great. So this is a little bit more about me, also from my website, like Nicole said. I kind of started my journey at Lululemon, did some key marketing initiatives, moved into starting my own agency, moved into CMO work, and now I'm a guest lecturer and TA at Harvard University for digital marketing strategy through the Harvard Business School. So kind of what are we talking about today? Developing a strategy, differences between Instagram and TikTok. I see a lot of issues with trying to distill content onto multiple platforms, but not being platform inherent in what it is that we're doing, which is so key to remember. Some cold hard facts. So again, a lot of people like to provide perspective. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard maybe your boss or a client be like, we shouldn't be on Facebook because my 18-year-old daughter said no one's on Facebook anymore. And you're like, okay, cool. Facebook is still the #1 most used social platform in the United States and the world collectively. So but is that where your strategy is focused? Is that where your consumers are, right? That's the questions we need to be asking ourselves. So again, getting back to fact-based research and less opinion is really key, especially when thinking about these platforms and video. Common video mistakes I'm seeing: how to optimize your TikTok content, how to optimize your Instagram content, creating video content on a budget. I think this is really key. And then some examples of brands doing it well. I think it's really great to have a visual picture of some brands I think are doing it well. And then I'm going to leave some time at the end for kind of questions and answers. I know, Nick, you're kind of collecting those as we go. So we can kind of dive in more specifically from there. So pre-video, I could give a whole day-long class on strategy. So I just want to make sure before we dive into video, we're focused on what is our strategy, because these platforms are not strategies. These platforms are here to support your strategy, but we need to focus on business objectives first. So these could be called various things: business metrics, business objective, business goals. A lot of people use different terminology. I call them business objectives. So a good rule of thumb for business objectives is know every business, and it doesn't matter if you're in retail, consumer packaged goods, alcohol, food and bev, hospitality, you should have no more than 3 to 4. Testy, I know, but you should never have you should never have any more than 3 to 4 of these. I work with so many brands who are like, here are 15 business objectives. And I'm like, okay, well, half of these are KPIs but what are your business objectives? And if you really boil them down, any more than that, I think every business would burn out, because there would be no way to measure and track and actually evaluate if you're hitting these. And so usually they're sales focused. Maybe they're awareness or growth focused. Maybe they're investor focused. There's a lot of ways to distill it, and they should be pretty well-rounded. So I can give you an example. One of the brands I work with is RMS Beauty, and one of their business objectives that we worked on with them is be the biggest household name in clean beauty. Okay, so what does that tell us about the brand? That they care a lot about awareness. They want to be educational about clean beauty, and they need to make sure that they're hitting their key demographic in order to be able to do that. So now we can move with that business objective, distill it down, and then work through a platform strategy that's inherently specific to each platform that allows us to measure and track if we're heading towards our business objective. Does that make sense? So that's why these business objectives are so key. And I would encourage everybody to start there and then umbrella forward. Try not to do so much at once. So what I mean by this is do less at one time. I see a lot of brands just tossing stuff against the wall and then being like, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. And I'm like, well, kind of going into that next point, building out KPIs and tracking. If you're doing too much at once, you can't actually track what's being successful. So if you think about, for example, like you're running maybe paid media campaigns and you don't know what's actually working because you're doing too much and you're not keeping a baseline consistent. Maybe you're trying all these different types of reels and you can't actually have any consistencies. You can't measure what's working. So for smaller brands, and even my bigger brands, I really try to make sure that we're trying only a handful of things at a time. Whatever is working, we keep, we do away with what's not working, and then we add more in from there. So we stay really focused on measuring what's working. KPIs, anything that you can attach a growth metric to or a number of metrics to, I encourage you to do it. This will allow you to be able to track what's working and what's not working even better. Sadly, there is no magic wand or hack to video content success. There's just not. Understanding the platform, we'll talk a lot about this. I would love to tell you there was a magic or quick fix. There's just not. So unfortunately, it's really trial and error, getting your hands dirty and measuring and having a really good data tracking system to find out what works for your brand uniquely. And then let your consumers tell you what they want from you. So again, I see this with a lot of brands is you go in thinking, and this is an example, not sure what that thumbs up is. I see this a lot. Like I'm working with a ready to drink brand where they think that their consumer is this like young college student and everybody's drinking these like ready to drink things. And we did this like whole data thing for them and brought in like kind of some external resources and stuff. We found out that their key consumer is that's a working mom in her 40s that drinks while she's cooking. And they were like, no, And we were like, this is literally hard data of demographics and age ranges and like who's buying your product. They were so unwilling to succumb to that like they're still pushing content that's focused on 20-something college students. Like they're not using the data that's right in front of them to like adapt their strategy. And that's like a very extreme example of what this can do for your brand. Oftentimes this is a lot smaller and we can use that data to adapt our video strategies, but that's just really just kind of like a honed example of what this could be. So now that we've talked a little bit about strategy, let's evaluate like TikTok and Instagram is where we need to be for our business. So we've evaluated the strategy. Now we know we need to be there. So now how do we perform powerfully on each platform? So key differences in the platform. When I talk about TikTok, I again hear a lot from people, we shouldn't be on TikTok because everyone on that platform is 16. That was true in 2020. Now the median age is 29. So this is just a factor of a couple of things, just more people on the platform. The longevity of the platform is there to stay. There were lawsuits and things last year, whether what's happening, it's here to stay. It is. And the median age on Instagram is 30. So really the majority of both of these platforms, 65% of the platform of both platforms are under the age 36. Huge. That's huge. So again, what does that tell you about your business? Is that where your key consumer is? And if so, then we need to be activating on these platforms. Something I advise my clients a lot with is trying to understand what the difference between the platforms is, like just inherent behavioral wise. And the way that I refer to it is that TikTok is your awareness and discovery driver. The way that the platform is set up is individual specific content preferences as opposed to kind of in an overall engagement score. And we'll go through that as you would on Instagram. So I think about TikTok as like individual content awareness drivers versus Instagram, which is like your loyal audience. You have like a lot of stronger repeat purchases. The people who are following you on Instagram are more likely to be signed up with your email list. They're like just more of a loyal audience because that's the consumer behavior on that platform. So TikTok algorithm, it adapts to your in the moment behaviors. So what you view, like, and share based on individual content preferences. So this is done video to video to video. So everybody, let's say that you're on your Discover, For You, Explore, whatever we want to call them page on TikTok, and you're liking, you're viewing. So something to remember is that everything you view for longer than 1 second on TikTok is feeding into your in the moment algorithm. So everything you like, even if you're there and watching something for longer than a second, it's feeding into the algorithm, telling the algorithm what it is that you want to see based on your stop and watch and engagement preferences. Instagram's a little different. This decides what you see based on post popularity. So again, the old adage, like only people who are big can continue to get big on Instagram. It's not totally incorrect, to be fair. So like based on post popularity in general, so the more engagement you have, the more engagement you're going to get. Your engagement trends as an actual content creator and information about the person and brand that posted. So key. So again, it is a platform that's optimized for bigger business success. And we'll talk about how some hacks to kind of get through that as we go. TikTok, how content is prioritized. As of August 2023, videos over 1 minute, which is not how it's been previously, are now prioritized on the platform. And each individual video performance stands alone. So it is not influenced or prioritized in the algorithm based on previous content performance, the way that it is on Instagram. Content prioritization on Instagram, behavior is shifting to prioritize story views over scrolling through Instagram feeds. That's what the recent studies are showing us because of how people interact on TikTok. So it does bleed into consumer behavior. So understanding that is really important. Content performance is based on overall account success versus individual content performance. So it is valuable to optimize your content for continued content, success, because Instagram takes that into account as it prioritizes your content in the algorithm. Just added in a few differences in paid opportunities in case anybody is curious about this. And this goes for boosting content as well as curated paid advertising. There are no age walls on TikTok, so liquor and spirits brand cannot utilize paid opportunities as business profiles. There are hacks where you switch your account to a creator profile and then you can do it, but you can't actually, like, I wouldn't advise this if you were like part of the Anheuser-Busch family, because like you can't, or like Diageo, because you can't like track and approve, you know, somebody over the age of 21 or any of that. But just keeping in mind that you can hack it if you need to. Not that I'm advising that. And then for Instagram, obviously overall cost per activity is higher. So it costs more money to make an impact on Instagram. So that is something to note. That dollar to dollar performance costs more on Instagram. Some facts. So follower count is becoming less important than ever. So as I mentioned previously, people have adapted on TikTok to viewing content as opposed to going to follow an account. Studies are showing that actually people need to view content from a creator or a brand account between up to 3 times before they even click to view that creator or brand's profile. Really key here. Number 2, 55% of social media users will share entertaining content. So what does this mean? I push most of my clients to have their share option as a goal, as an engagement metric that we should be tracking. Each individual content that gets saved, what are we tracking those save metrics or those share metrics? We should be, because that tells us, in my opinion, a lot more than a follow metric based on the current data of human performance. So that's something. 70% of brands believe their ads are relevant to the audience they are targeting. Only 8% of people, that's a typo, think ads they see are relevant. It's a crazy stat. So something to remember, that storytelling is key. I just read a stat the other day that 92% of people being served ads or any of this content want to be told a story. So keep that in mind when we're thinking about calls to action and paid media. 76% of social media users have purchased something they saw on social media. Of that percentage, 11% buy immediately and 44% defer to online purchases for later. So unless you're using paid media, you can't track that defer to later. With cookies going away in January, we're going to have a really hard time with third-party pixels being put in on the back end of our website and then tracking that success conversion from click through to purchase using third-party cookies. So again, we can divulge into a whole other category and topic here, but just keeping in mind, this is why optimizing video content for reach and engagement with the widest key performing audience for you is really important, because it's just a numbers game. Because people want to purchase, they want to feel that. It's just distilling down how this will work for your brand. That's not pushing, selling product in a storytelling fashion, tracking what lands, and then doing more of that will lead to where you want it to be. Common mistakes I'm seeing. So following trends that are not aligned with your brand. So this goes for signing up your brand up for a thing like Threads before you know really what it's going to be, because it's a bright, shiny object and we're all getting kind of the noise and we're getting nervous. We want to do all of it. So don't just jump on a trend to jump on a trend. I see this so often, and I actually hear a lot that there's fatigue. Like, if Taylor Swift drops a new album, you don't have to put your brand's product on the Taylor Swift 1989 cover story. Like, you don't have to do that. Oftentimes, unless there's something about that speaks to your brand that will make your consumer go, ha ha, oh, I love that, as opposed to being like, oh, another one. Like, think about you as a consumer and what it is that you want to see. That's really important before jumping on a trend, making sure it ladders up to your business objectives. I see people attempting to speak to everybody. We have to remember that that's just not realistic. So along with, and this is kind of goes back to strategy, where we think about like, who are our 2-3 most valuable personas, MVPs, as I call them, in which we can segment audience groups from. So without getting too deep into that strategy, we want to make sure we're always speaking to that MVP. We want to make sure we're always curating. Does that mean that our brand won't speak to some people? Yeah. And that's okay, because it's going to speak really hard to the people who are going to be converting to sales. And that's what matters. And that's how you grow a community. And I see you're focusing too hard on writing cool captions. So we're going to dig into this a little bit next as we talk through kind of optimizing TikTok content. But there's SEO built in for each of these platforms are now kind of becoming their own ecosystems, and SEO polls and keyword searches are happening within each of the platforms. So you're basically doing yourself a massive disservice if you're not telling the platform what it is you're talking about, because then you miss all these keyword search and SEO opportunities by writing kind of cool captions that just don't make sense. So this is the real stuff here. Optimizing TikTok content. So we talked about this a little bit. Videos over 1 minute are now prioritized in the algorithm. So that's something just to consider as you're creating content. It is longer stuff. It is, in terms of editing, more time intensive, but it is prioritized. So creator versus business accounts. So business accounts are limited with music and paid opportunities. TikTok does try to garner every brand to use a business account. However, creator accounts have a lot more flexibility in terms of media, in terms of music and paid usage. So just something to keep in mind as you're setting up your account. On TikTok, more views equal more views. So once you start getting this engagement, it's going to continue to populate to the top of people's algorithms, because what you're telling the feed is that your content is being engaged by people. So as much as you can push out and hack that, the better. And we'll talk through how to do that. So like I mentioned, the platform now has SEO capabilities. So what does this mean? It means that it's really important, and without going down kind of too deep of like a niche hole here, it means that understanding keywords is really important. So let's boil this back a little bit. So let's say that I am, and I'll use it from a creator profile so you can understand. Let's say that I'm a creator and I am going into the cost store and I'm going to try on a bunch of pieces that I want people to see and potentially buy. So I create a video around this and I type in to the keyword and I cut my video together and it looks great. What people are talking about in the moment in relation to your content is key to understand. So like I said, it's a try on haul, but like I'm in the dressing room, like I want people to understand. So you type into, as in if you can see with this image here, you type on in the search box what it is that you're talking about in your video, and it'll populate some videos. But if you scroll down probably like 1 to 2 finger scrolls, you're going to see something called others searched for. These are key terms that people in your demographic are searching for, similar to your content. And if you keep scrolling, there'll be like other boxes like this. I like to screenshot this. And then what you'll do is you go back to your video and put these in hashtags, search hashtags around these. And then another hack you can do is just put all that text, like cost clothing, cost coat, all in like text on your video, and then drag it over to the side so you can't see it. However, the algorithm will still pull your video content into that conversation the way that you would like drag and tag on an Instagram story. So it's very important. Keywords are so important on a platform like TikTok, who uses an SEO recall system for non-paid opportunities. Similar to this with hashtag use. So what worked today will not work tomorrow. So doing something like this and searching these relevant hashtags in this keyword box will populate what you need in the moment for your video. And I would challenge you to do this every time you post a video for the new relevant keyword and hashtag search terms, because things are happening like fashion 2023 isn't necessarily a thing. You want something more curated. So maybe it's like fall fashion trends 2023 holiday party. I don't know, like whatever. Like it could be any of these things. Make sure you're utilizing that. And then if you're a brand, try small scale strategic boosting content. So what you want to think about, this is not curated ad. This is just like, and to be clear, boosted content is putting money behind content that exists already on your page. So you're not editing copy, you're not editing video, music, all of that kind of stuff. You're just putting money behind content to make it perform better. Curated advertising is you have full scale control over everything that you're putting out. So that's your creative, your copy, your demographics, your timing, your money, all of that kind of stuff. And you're just doing that as paid, and that does not live on your current feed. And that goes for TikTok and for Instagram. TikTok operates in a more boost friendly environment. And I would encourage everybody to try that as a brand. So, and we're talking, anywhere from $50 to $150 on each piece of content, and just test to get it out there. Because again, what you're doing is showing the algorithm that your content is being engaged with more, regardless of your paid. So give it a try. That could be something that also helps get your prioritization happening there. Instagram content. So stop with perfect content on Instagram. If you're paying money for like professional photo or video, speaking as somebody who is a professional photographer in their early 20s, like love photo and video content, it definitely has a place. And if you're cross-functioning it with e-com and web, and also using it on socials, but all for paid advertising maybe, and like some of these other things, great. And you're really like kind of milking it for all it's worth and utilizing it across multi-channels, awesome. If it's just for social use, I am working with a brand right now that have like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars allocated to this type of content. And it is such a waste. We show them month over month that this is literally the lowest performing content on their page. It's like, it's not necessary. Do you want low res imagery? No, but iPhones have come so far. Creators are using them constantly. People want to see themselves in your content and not this kind of polished view of what it is that you're doing. It's just been the feedback. So there's no need for that perfect content in the same way that there used to be. 92% of consumers want brands to create content that feel like stories. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. How can you storytell on Instagram? What can you do that makes people feel like you're doing them a favor and providing a little bit of value when you're not selling them? Instagram has come a big salesy platform, and people are getting really frustrated by it. So remember that if you are doing calls to action, unless you're doing curated paid advertising, maybe a retargeting ad, you're using discount codes, that's a whole other separate conversation. If we're strictly speaking organic content, it's really important to stay focused on storytelling. Another key metric, users must watch 75% of your video for the platform to count it as a view. So I see this a lot where people are talking about, well, I have way more views on this exact same video on TikTok. Maybe. Or is it because in TikTok views a view at seeing it for 1 second, and Instagram, you have to watch 75% of that video. So just remember, get the data and facts and to fully understand what it is that you're working with. Some best practices. Take risks on Instagram and try a wide range of things on different types of content and track the data to tell you what works. So what you can see here on one of our clients, they have a wide range of content usage. And then there are different ones where we're utilizing creators, collaborator features, and different types of recipes where we found if we utilize less than 10 ingredients in a recipe, you can see the engagement is completely different. We're talking 2,000 views to 51 and 76,000 views. So do the data and look at your numbers, because this is all free stuff on the back end of the Instagram platform. So that's really apparent to be able to look at. Hashtags still matter on Instagram. Use them. Use the keyword searches the same way. Don't just kind of paste them into the first comment every single time. Look into what's actually performing. As a reminder, you can use up to 30 on Instagram. Hook your content. So what are people getting on Instagram in the first 5 seconds that makes them want to watch the remainder of your video. I would argue that that's the most important time if you want them to watch that 75%. Use the collaborator feature with creators. So if you're going to work with creators, which I think is a very budget-friendly way, and I'm not talking influencers with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm talking like niche creators. Use the collaborator feature. Capitalize on their audience. Like, do partnerships. It creates a relationship. They're working hard on that content. They'll probably want to use it on their page anyway. And then same note here, small scale strategic boosts on content that you're seeing perform really well. Again, I'm not talking more than $100-$200 a boost, very small scale. Test it out. See what people are you getting an increase in comments? What are your engagement metrics looking like? Are you just getting more views, or are you actually getting people engaging on your content? Check that out. All right, we're going through this quick. I promise I have for questions at the end. Creating content on a budget. So how can we do this? Hiring an intern is a great option. A lot of businesses will do, and I've done this before, you can offer college credit. A lot of young students want to do this. A lot of Gen Z, like a huge piece of a lot of job opportunities for starting out of school, are creating content for brands. This is like a huge piece that people are just like line iteming into job titles. So people really want that experience. So there is an option for college credit, or obviously like monthly pay, whatever it is that you can work out. So it is a more cost-effective way. And the other thing I would tell you, if you are going to do this, have them focused on trend tracking. We have trend tracking interns where their full job is just trend tracking. So they report to us every Monday what's happening on these social platforms. What are some trends they're seeing? What's trending sounds that they're working on? What are they seeing people post about? What brands, and it's an exercise for them, what brands of our client list could work for this and work for that? So that's an adapting strategy where it takes a lot of time to adapt these trends so they can do some of that work for you. Maximize your time. So can you pre-shoot some content and then align it with trends later? So are there like some snaps of your content, or showing, opening a can of soda or something like that you could align with a trending sound and create some copy over to join a trend, but you already have that video shot? Something to think about. And then carving out content time each week. If you're a very small company and you're working with like just yourself and maybe one other person, I have found it really successful for small business owners to carve out maybe an hour a week, just shoot some of this content so they have it on reserve and they're not struggling to do it week over week. Next thing is consumer listening. I've talked about this a lot, so this is no new news, but ask your followers what you want to see from them. Utilize polls on Instagram stories, ABC tests. People can click different things about what they want to see from you. Ask them. They'll tell you. And I'm not saying, derail your whole business objective strategy, but maybe it's adapting. They're saying like, actually, we prefer static posts from you. Okay, that's probably information you want to know. Follow keyword searches to see what users are searching on each platform for. So that's really important. So like we talked about previously with TikTok, search those keywords. And then utilize creators. So build it into your budget and create partnerships to maximize spend. So if you ask for a one-off video, you're going to get an inflated price. I find that working on partnerships in like a 3-month increment really decreases that cost, and you get more for your money, and the creator feels like you're more invested in them. You also have the opportunity to provide notes, and it creates that relationship. And also utilizing the creator feature, this is something they'll usually bake into the cost of that if you utilize their partnership for longer. So that's something to consider. Some brands I'm seeing doing things well. So one thing that's really, 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 really important to note here is that each of these brands show up massively differently on TikTok versus Instagram. You know that it's each of their brands by going to their pages, but they are incredibly platform specific and have very little content crossover. Couple of things to know. it is more expensive to do that. You are creating unique content for each platform. So just know that that is. However, you can recut pieces of content and video and go across each platform. But understanding what performs best on each platform is so key. So RMS, they're on TikTok. They're extremely focused on like tight, very lit shots of the product, like very glammy sort of like mood shots, ASMR of the product and application like on the hand and that sort of thing. On Instagram, we're really focused on holistic lifestyle brand content. So video shot in Times Square, product launches, informational posts, that sort of thing. Touchland, which is like a trendy hand sanitizer brand. They are incredibly focused on Gen Z trend content. So they really hit like a young Gen Z audience with like sound usage, trends, copywriting. Instagram, they're very polished. They have lots of graphic content. They use a lot of like funny quips, but they're like focus is shareable content. So they tweets, they do a lot of that kind of stuff. Sheerluxe, which is a fashion lifestyle publication out of the UK. They basically go around and interview their team and go on the street with like a mic and interview what people are wearing. And it's very like team and community focused, whereas their Instagram is an editorial fashion inspo and graphic accounts. Interesting. Olipop, which is the probiotic soda brand, they are trend focused and they use one single creator as the face of their brand. Now, that's a touchy subject because I don't actually agree with that, especially because she is a blonde white girl, which I don't love as the face of a brand. That she's not the founder. She's literally just a content creator. So it's definitely not what I would advise. I actually advise against that. However, they know what works for them on that platform and they've leaned in, whether or not you agree with it or not. On Instagram, they're very focused on the where to find us, launching new products. They're very detailed into if they're going to launch a new flavor, the who, what, when, where, why of that flavor, in which they don't necessarily talk about on TikTok. So some really important things there. So takeaways. Get clear on business objectives before anything else. This is so, so, so important. And I cannot stress it enough that this is where I see so many brands get derailed before they even start creating content. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And by prioritizing small, measurable, incremental changes, you're going to be able to measure what's working and actually track what's converting for your brand without having to add on paid opportunities and all these other things by just utilizing this data and stats that are on the back end of each platform. And do the research to stay current on platform updates and changes. So not, I don't think we should be on this platform or not. It's more about prioritizing 1-minute videos now. Just get these kind of alerts and try to get up to date on some of these platform changes because things change all the time. And the more up to date you can stay and more educated you can stay, the better. So that's kind of where we'll end it. Yeah, next, I don't know if you want to like go through some questions. I'm like happy to answer some questions. And then obviously I can provide kind of like my email address in the chat if anybody, wants me to have like a more specific question or anything to kind of have me look at after. I'm happy to do that too.
That's perfect. Chels, thank you so much. We have a couple questions in the chat, so I'll start with those and then I'll open it up to whoever else wants to pop into the chat or unmute and ask questions. One question from Hannah is it better to do one platform well versus have like a bare bones presence on both platforms? So that was her question.
Such a good question. Yes, absolutely. My thing with my clients is I'd rather see you do one at 100% than 2 or 3 at 50 to 75%. Because you're also going to, by doing one platform at 100%, you're going to get those learnings. You're going to find out more about your consumer. You're going to be really dedicated. Then you're going to be able to take those learnings. And then when you're scaling and you're ready, to bring on a new platform, you're going to be able to actually do it a lot more effectively while maintaining what's working on one and trying some new things in another. So that would be my recommendation for sure.
Thank you. Amazing. Okay, great. The next question is from Lexi. This was on your slide. This was on one of the Instagram slides. There was a stat about 75% watch time for it to count as a view. Her question was, is that relatively new? And is that why everyone's complaining about views dropping off of a cliff in the last couple of months?
Not super new. However, Instagram is notorious for making changes and adapting the strategy months after they announce something, or they won't necessarily announce something. There are these kind of like back end trolls that are constantly like talking about these changes and things that they're noting. But it takes Instagram, because of the size of the company and, dare I say, the poor run nature of Meta, it takes them sometimes up to 9 to 12 months to roll out new updates. So I have been hearing this a lot with my clients over the last 6 months. So likely that can be the case if it's been a slow roll, but we've seen this stat for about 18 months, kind of circling the drain. However, it could likely on some accounts have taken up until the last couple of months to take effect.
Thank you. Next question is from Leslie. So she says her Instagram has natural growth in just 3 months from starting it to 42,000 followers, but her TikTok is at 1,300. So she's curious to know, like, how do you know if you're shadow banned? There's just like such a difference in followers between the platforms.
Totally. Very hard to know. You likely won't. Also, keep in mind, user behavior is not to follow accounts on TikTok. It's just not. So it will be harder to harder to gain followers on TikTok. I'd be more concerned about the views, and actual, like, how pushed out is each individual video getting. Because if you're getting, 200,000 views on your videos and not growing followers, that's cause for concern. But if you're hovering the like 200 views, 400, 500 views, you're not likely optimizing keyword searches and utilizing some inherent platform updates. I wouldn't necessarily say you're shadow banned.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. We have two more. Catherine says, okay, 2 questions. So for SEO on TikTok, do closed captions count as the text for SEO, or is it just for using static text from the text tab?
If I'm understanding this correctly, any place you can put text, so that would be putting copy in the actual video in the platform. This does not count if you edit your video outside of the platform and add captions, you guys, it's basically Friday. What's happening? If you add text in like a video editing app, like iMovie or like on your phone, and then upload it into TikTok, that does not count. But if you're using the actual text box, like where you can add text on Instagram and then, on TikTok, and then like push it to the side or something like that, or just keep it in your video, that counts. Copy, like your actual caption in your actual post, and then any hashtags you use on that post as well.
Perfect. And then part 2 of that question was, is there value to creating and testing Reels content on Instagram, like posting many videos that don't have to be posted to your grid? Or is there any correlation with engagement and views to videos that are posted to your grid and your feed versus ones that aren't?
I get it. Yeah. If you, I would advise, my question would be, why wouldn't you want to post it to your feed? Because the more you can have people do, the goal is to drive traffic to your feed. And if you have to click to your Reels tab in order to view it, that's just hindering your growth. I would put everything on your actual feed. But remember that things are not chronological, and you are not being prioritized by posting like a ton of content all at once. Like, I would space it out and like let that content breathe and let people give the chance to engage and post it on your feed. And you also don't want to like just blow through that much content. It's like a lot of money. So I would make sure that it lives on your feed to optimize for that viewing.
Perfect. There's so many good questions rolling in. This is great. This is like rapid fire questions. So Fiona is wondering, she says, I've not posted on both Instagram and TikTok for a year. Now I just started posting again. Should I create a new account or post and revitalize the current accounts?
Couple thoughts. So TikTok, there's rumor that on new accounts, they prioritize new accounts like first 1 or 2 videos. So you get like hooked in and feeling good about like video views, and then it like goes back to normal. So it's like spoofy. That's not real. If you have handles that you really like, there's nothing about being shadow banned or like you're deprioritized in an algorithm. Those are all myths. Like I would just, if it were me, I wouldn't use that vanity of starting something new, and I would just build out what it is that you have currently built, because likely those handles are like, unless there's been a problem with them or you tried advertising and then you were banned from that and that sort of thing, then maybe there's a time and a place. But like I would say focus your energy on creating the right content on those platforms that are already there.
Next question is from Jamie. She says, do you find that people that spend money on Instagram have lower views on organic content?
No, not at all. It shouldn't be that way. Will it be? I'm trying to think through like how and why that could be, but no.
Okay. Okay. Ada's question is, what's your workflow for incorporating trending content into a content calendar that might be planned like a couple weeks out? So just
Great question. So basically, having an agency where we represent over 17 currently different brands, and we have to work in content calendars because otherwise like we have to get approvals from the brands, and you really have to do all of that. So what we do is TikTok is shorter increments. So whether that's depending on how the brand works, it could be 4-week content calendars for Instagram, and then we leave holes for trending content. Or for TikTok, we work in like 1 to 2 week increments to rapid fire those trends. We also create and edit video content ahead of time and then adapt it to trending content. We also have content creators on staff where their only job is to fast turn content in 24 hours. So if trends are coming out, well, that's their job, is where like you have to create that content quickly. However, like we are by no means an inexpensive agency. So, we definitely have those resources whereas small businesses don't necessarily. However, if you're in-house, this is where an intern could be really helpful.
Perfect. Couple more before we break for the day. Jessica wants to know, is there a way to like mention other users in the comments of your TikTok videos? For some reason, they're not linking to users' accounts for her.
I would. So this happened actually to my personal TikTok recently, where I just did not have like a ton of platform changes that the rest of my team did. And I only noticed this when I went to post like a collection of photos versus just doing videos. People could do like the carousel photos, which by the way, the algorithm has preferred those as of the last month. So utilize the photo feature, do your editing in TikTok. It's definitely like really good. But and I was like, what the hell is going on? So I fully like uninstalled the platform. I did all the updates. That wasn't anything. I uninstalled the thing from my phone, deleted the app, did the whole thing, re-added it. And all of a sudden everything had been updated. It just needed that like hard reset. So keep in mind that like this is technology, things break. So if you can do like the most hard reset, I know you run the risk of deleting like your draft posts. So just keep in mind that like if you have any posts saved in drafts, you could run the risk of losing them. But otherwise, just uninstall.
Jessica says that's fine. My drafts are garbage.
So in that case, uninstall and reinstall. That really worked for me. Just kind of like a hard reset.
Perfect. Thank you. She says, thank you. Thank you. She's going to do that right now. Okay. Last question that I see, but feel free. We have a couple more minutes. So if anybody has any more, drop them into the chat. But the last one that I see is, how long does it generally take to create a respectable following for someone that's generally consistent?
That's a little bit too vague for me to answer. Respectable following is open to interpretation. It depends on the brand. It depends on what it is you're trying to do. I would need to see your business objectives. Like, that's a little bit too vague for me to answer. Sorry.
I think that those are all of our questions. If anybody has any more, please feel free to drop them into the chat. Otherwise, I'll sort of start to wrap us up here. So I just want to do a couple things. Number one, I want to thank Chelsea for all of her wisdom and expertise today. This was so wonderful and so jam-packed full of great information. Thank you for your time. And thank you for everyone for showing up today. This was so wonderful. I am going to drop 2 quick links into the chat here. One of them is our feedback form. And then one of them is a form that if anybody would like to have run their own Dreamers and Doers workshop, I will drop those in the chat now. And I will just keep an eye out for any last questions. I'll also end the recording in just a second. But thank you so much, Chelsea. This was so wonderful. We appreciate you.
Of course. I'm dropping my direct email in the chat. If anybody has any other specific stuff or anything like that, I'm happy to attempt to answer anything like that to help out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Chelsea. Have a great rest of your day and happy Thanksgiving to anybody who is celebrating this week.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.